pause everything you are currently engaged in. Halt your train of thought immediately. You need to drop whatever distraction is holding your attention right now, because an event of unprecedented magnitude is unfolding at this exact second, and missing it is simply not an option. We are not talking about tomorrow. We are not talking about later this evening. We are talking about this precise, fleeting moment. A very narrow gateway is rapidly closing a threshold that the vast majority of humanity will walk past without ever realizing it existed. However, you have never belonged to that ordinary majority. You never fit that mold. The sheer reality that you have arrived here, that your attention is locked onto these specific words, that a deep, inexplicable magnetic pull resonated within your core, an absolute, undeniable intuition instructing you to click, to watch, to absorb this message is absolutely not a random stroke of luck. That is not mere coincidence. That is active detection. It is the framework of the simulation itself acknowledging that you are finally prepared for the next phase of your evolution. And let me assure you, what unfolds next will permanently alter the trajectory of your existence. Let us establish a profound understanding before we proceed a single step further. Do not mistake this for mere digital entertainment. This is not just another disposable piece of content you mindlessly consume while swiping through your daily feed. The transmission embedded within this communication holds a specific vibrational frequency designed to fundamentally restructure your energetic blueprint, provided you are open to receiving it. The intense urgency you feel, the reason this encounter feels radically distinct from anything you have previously absorbed, stems from a monumental truth. The invisible architecture that has dictated your reality, the quantum program that has strictly defined the boundaries of your experiences, your potential, and your access to universal truth, that very system is shutting down. This is not a metaphor. This is not some distant future prophecy. Its deactivation is happening tonight. You have already been sensing it, haven't you? A profound, almost unsettling shift has been occurring deep within. Perhaps you have felt it building for days, or even lingering for weeks. It manifests as a bizarre, unexplainable restlessness. You feel as though the very foundation of your daily existence is no longer firm. It is as if the fundamental laws that previously dictated your reality are experiencing severe system errors. The strategies and routines that used to yield results are suddenly failing, while profound mysteries that once baffled you are instantly becoming crystal clear. You probably mislabeled this sensation. You assumed it was standard anxiety. You believed it was mere mental fog. You might have even convinced yourself that something was inherently wrong with you. But hear this clearly. Absolutely nothing is wrong or broken within you. In fact, everything is perfectly aligned. What your physical and energetic bodies are registering is the weakening grasp of the simulation. You are experiencing the real-time dissolution of an obsolete paradigm. The sole reason you are capable of perceiving this collapse is that your personal vibrational frequency has escalated past the maximum limit the program can control. Allow that truth to sink in deeply for a moment. The matrix does not power down for the entire collective at once. It simply cannot. The overwhelming majority of the population remains completely entangled within the artificial code. They continue to operate on autopilot, reacting blindly to the system's external triggers. They remain trapped in endless, looping algorithms of anxiety, insecurity, shallow distractions, and mindless habits, the very fuel that keeps the illusion stable and operational. The program demands these repetitive cycles. It survives on predictable human reactions and thrives on dormant consciousness. As long as a mind remains asleep, the invisible walls hold strong. But your story took a different turn. A profound awakening occurred within you. You might not even be capable of identifying the exact moment your perception shattered the boundary line. But it happened. You began to see the underlying patterns rather than just being lost in the chaos. You started to interrogate the societal narrative rather than blindly living inside it. You began to sense the artificial borders of the construct, those specific areas where life felt hollow, fabricated, and far too meticulously engineered to suppress your true power. The exact second your consciousness shifted from being a blind participant to an awake observer, you activated a hidden protocol. You initiated a localized shutdown sequence. This is not a global collapse, but a highly targeted deactivation specifically for your individual node, your unique intersection of awareness within the grand, interconnected grid. The system realized you were no longer a dormant, passive participant. You are waking up, and a fully conscious node is the one anomaly a rigid simulation absolutely cannot tolerate. Here lies the ultimate secret that is fiercely guarded regarding the true nature of our quantum holographic reality. The concept is not that your world is entirely fake. That is an incredibly superficial and flawed way to look at it. This matrix is not a simple optical illusion in the traditional sense of the word. Rather, it is a highly organized environment composed of varying frequencies. It is a hyper-coherent field of living information meticulously designed to project the vivid illusions of dense physical matter, linear time, and individual isolation. It is a masterpiece of unimaginable sophistication. This framework is highly reactive. It shifts based on the act of observation. It instantly molds itself to match your deepest held convictions. It functions by generating continuous, reinforcing feedback loops that perfectly mirror whatever energetic frequency your consciousness is broadcasting out into the ether. If your dominant vibration is terror, the intelligent field immediately manufactures physical circumstances that validate your fear. If you resonate with a mindset of poverty and lack, the algorithm effortlessly supplies continuous proof of your scarcity. If you emit signals of self-doubt and unworthiness, the system will tirelessly construct interpersonal scenarios designed to convince you that you are indeed inadequate. Understand this crucial distinction. None of this is a cosmic punishment. It is simply pure, impartial quantum mechanics. Think of this complex matrix as an infinite looking glass. From the moment you took your first breath, you have been staring into this reflective surface, mistakenly convinced that the images bouncing back at you were the actual origin of your life. However, the blinders have finally fallen away. You now possess the profound realization that every single detail of that reflection is actively projected by your own internal state. The matrix does not dictate the terms of your existence. Rather, your unique energetic signature dictates the physical output that the matrix generates. This exact epiphany, this radical pivot in how you perceive your existence, is the specific catalyst that initiates the shutdown sequence. The very instant a mind awakens to the fact that it is the cinematic projector rather than the movie being played on the screen, the program immediately loses its grip, the grand mirror shatters, and the underlying digital architecture begins to heavily fragment. Those ancient, repetitive loops disintegrate, paving the way for a force that this artificial environment was completely unequipped to handle. Absolute, unadulterated, and fiercely sovereign consciousness. Your energetic halo surges to full power. Your personal auric field blazes with brilliant illumination, and your timeline finally becomes yours to command. If these truths are already striking a profound chord within your soul, if you can physically sense the high vibrational weight of these concepts anchoring into your energetic field right now, pause for a second, press the like button, and subscribe to this community. Do not treat this as a mindless, automatic web interaction. Execute it as a powerful, intentional, energetic, yes, a deliberate beacon blasted out into the quantum field, declaring that you are present, fully awake, and actively receiving this transmission. Let us plunge even deeper into the rabbit hole. Allow me to guide your awareness further, because what we are discussing is far from hypothetical speculation or dry, abstract philosophical musings. This is a live, real-time biological and spiritual event occurring within you. It is absolutely crucial that you comprehend the granular mechanics of this phenomenon. Without this knowledge, you might subconsciously resist the transition, allowing the dying algorithms of the matrix to trick you into retreating back into your familiar cage. Visualize, if you will, a colossal, boundless digital web composed of luminous fiber optics stretching endlessly across the cosmos, interlinking billions upon billions of individual points of awareness. Every single one of these points represents a node. Every node signifies a living, breathing human, a unique soul, an entire lifetime of experiences. This sprawling, intricate web is the simulation itself. It is the vast quantum scaffold that glues our collective illusion of physical reality together. Now, picture every individual node radiating its own distinct vibrational rhythm. The vast majority of these lights hum at an incredibly low, stagnant, and highly predictable tempo. They are locked into a monotonous repetition, perfectly harmonized with the sleepwalking nodes surrounding them. It is precisely this massive, dense synchronization that constructs the baseline of our shared societal reality, the universal consensus, the mundane world as the sleeping masses perceive it. As long as this collective hum remains uniform and suppressed, the construct remains incredibly stable. The underlying code executes without a hitch, and the grand illusion remains completely undisturbed. However, occasionally, a rogue node begins to throb with an entirely different energy. Its internal rhythm accelerates, and its frequency violently spikes. It starts broadcasting an intense, discordant signal that aggressively clashes with the stagnant hum of its neighbors. In the beginning, the system attempts to autocorrect the glitch. It deploys targeted countermeasures, experiences meticulously engineered to drag that ascending node back down into the collective slumber. This manifests as sudden waves of severe self-doubt, irrational fear, harsh judgments from peers, and chaotic life events that feel exactly like cosmic punishment for daring to step out of line. Does this scenario sound painfully familiar? Have you ever observed that the very second you attempt to elevate your life, the moment you initiate a profound internal metamorphosis, some invisible force violently yanks you backwards? I need you to realize that this is not a string of terrible luck. That is simply the Matrix executing its automated defense mechanisms. The system is programmed to maintain absolute conformity at all costs, and tragically, for the majority of human nodes, these counterattacks are highly successful. The pressure becomes too immense, shattering their resolve and forcing them back into the herd's frequency. They succumb to the illusion, shut their eyes, and happily resume their deep sleep within the digital walls. Yet, against all odds, you refuse to retreat. You definitely endured those aggressive correction protocols. You felt the crushing weight of uncertainty, the fierce societal resistance, and the relentless energetic pushback. But an ancient, unyielding power residing deep within your core, a force far more primal than the artificial matrix and vastly stronger than your mortal fears, categorically rejected compliance. You stubbornly continued to elevate. You aggressively maintained your upward trajectory, continuously prioritizing brutal truth over blissful ignorance, and favoring limitless expansion over the suffocating warmth of safety. With every courageous decision you made to break the mold, your energetic signature soared to unprecedented heights. Consequently, with each massive leap in your vibration, the system's capacity to suppress you grew progressively weaker. This relentless escalation has culminated right here, in this exact breath, where your internal frequency has skyrocketed to an extreme level that the construct can simply no longer tether to its grid. The system's defense protocols have officially crashed. The collective synchronization signals bounce right off of you. You are now resonating at an altitude that completely bypasses the program's maximum bandwidth. And so, confronted with a rogue node, it is utterly powerless to govern. The algorithm is forced to execute its final, unavoidable command: absolute release. It is systematically shutting down the digital prison bars surrounding your specific node. It is dropping its grip. This monumental emancipation is exactly what is unraveling for you tonight. The global illusion is not collapsing for the entire planet, but it is officially terminating for you. Your localized, restricted experience of existing within a heavily monitored, finite, and carefully scripted environment has finally hit its absolute expiration date. The oppressive source code responsible for manifesting your glass ceilings, your perpetual roadblocks, your unseen barricades, and your toxic, cyclical karmic loops is rapidly disintegrating into digital dust. Once this deactivation process is entirely complete, You are going to cross the threshold into an entirely new dimension of existence, a paradigm governed by radically distinct laws. You are leaving behind the obsolete mechanics of restriction and systemic correction, and boldly stepping into a universe governed solely by the infinite powers of pure resonance and conscious manifestation. Tune into your physical vessel right now as these words wash over you. Pay close attention to the physiological feedback. Are you experiencing a sudden surge of warmth, a subtle electrical tingling, or a profound sensation of spaciousness expanding across your chest or at the crown of your head? I assure you, this is not a product of an overactive imagination. That specific sensation is your energetic blueprint actively vibrating in the presence of undeniable universal truth. That is the physical manifestation of your auric halo snapping into full activation. Your somatic intelligence grasps this reality long before your cognitive mind can process it. Your subtle energy field is already screaming yes, validating the exact phenomenon that your logical brain might still be desperately trying to rationalize. This transition is incredibly real. It is unfolding at this exact second, and you are unequivocally prepared for it. Let us take a brief pause here, because I have a crucial question for you. Think back, when was the precise moment you initially sensed this massive shift? When did you absolutely know, deep in your bones, that the archaic paradigm could no longer contain your spirit? Navigate down to the comments section and document your experience. The unique frequency embedded in your personal testimony possesses the power to trigger a profound realization in another awakening soul who is trying to identify their own turning point. Now, I must be brutally transparent with you about what happens next. This is the harsh reality that most spiritual guides shy away from discussing because it triggers deep discomfort. The matrix absolutely does not power down in a neat, orderly fashion. It is not as simple as flicking a switch in a dark room. It executes a desperate final phase, a last-ditch countermeasure, which happens to be the most treacherous segment of this entire awakening journey. It is not dangerous because it possesses the brute force to halt your evolution. Your vibration has already bypassed its limits. Rather, it is perilous because it is incredibly deceptive. It attempts to manipulate you into sabotaging your own escape. Here is exactly how the system's final defense mechanism operates. It aggressively inundates your nervous system with every single unresolved, low-density emotion you have ever harbored. Prepare to face every lingering terror you assumed you had outgrown, every deeply rooted insecurity you thought you had vanquished, and every traumatic memory, ancient wound, or toxic habit that historically kept you tethered to the artificial grid. During the critical hours and days enveloping your localized deactivation, these dense energies will aggressively bubble to the surface. Understand this critical point. They are not emerging because they represent your current reality, nor are they returning to claim you. They are surfacing strictly because the simulation is forcibly purging them from your energetic node before your final release. Envision a corrupted computer hard drive undergoing a massive wipe. Right before the files are permanently deleted, they rapidly flash across the monitor one last time. That is the precise phenomenon you are experiencing. The obsolete programming is glitching. Your ancient anxieties are projecting their final echoes. The outdated, smaller versions of your identity are taking their final bow on the stage. Herein lies the ultimate snare. If you mistakenly validate these echoes, if you emotionally entangle yourself with them, if you treat these evaporating shadows as if they dictate your present reality rather than recognizing them as dying code, you risk rebooting the very matrix you are escaping. You can inadvertently drag your consciousness right back into the suffocating grid. While you cannot permanently halt the deactivation, your energetic signature is simply too robust for the matrix to imprison forever. You can certainly postpone it. And let me warn you, certain cosmic windows of opportunity, once squandered, do not simply reappear in the same convenient manner. A future gateway will inevitably present itself, but accessing it will demand that you painstakingly scale this vibrational mountain all over again. And you know intimately how agonizing that ascent truly was. You remember the steep price of admission, the friendships that dissolved, the false identities you had to brutally slaughter, the cozy comfort zones you had to incinerate. You absolutely do not want to repeat that grueling climb. You want to march straight through the portal that is standing wide open for you at this very moment. Therefore, here is the exact protocol you must implement. Here is the active practice, and I implore you to treat this with the utmost gravity, because we are not dealing in poetic metaphors. We are utilizing advanced energetic mechanics. Halt your physical movements right now. If your environment allows, gently close your eyes. If you are operating a vehicle or navigating a public space, simply soften your visual focus and redirect your absolute awareness deep within your body. Anchor your concentration directly in the center of your chest. I am not referring to the biological organ pumping blood, but rather the energetic heart center, the sacred core where raw truth resonates. It is that intuitive compass that constricts violently when you encounter deception and blossoms wide open when you encounter pure alignment. Inhale deeply and deliberately into that specific void. With every single, measured breath you draw in, visualize an intensely brilliant light intensifying within that core. Do not attempt to artificially manufacture this light. Merely recognize it. It is a divine spark that has resided there since the dawn of your creation, a beacon that the Matrix desperately tried to smother but completely failed to extinguish. As you slowly exhale, command that brilliant light to surge outward. Push it through your chest cavity, down across your shoulders, cascading through your skull and rushing all the way down to the tips of your fingers and toes. Allow this blazing frequency to entirely consume your physical vessel, and then force it to radiate past the boundaries of your skin. Project it outward 2 feet, 3 feet, even 5 feet into the atmosphere surrounding you in every conceivable direction. This radiant sphere is your authentic halo. This is the impenetrable energetic shield that the artificial construct could never successfully crush. And right now, through the simple act of conscious breathing and intentional expansion, you are fortifying its structure. You are amplifying its brilliance and coherence to such an absolute state of invincibility that no dying algorithm, no last-ditch matrix protocol, and no ghostly, surfacing fear could ever hope to breach its perimeter. Now, speak the following decree aloud if your surroundings permit. Even a faint whisper will suffice, but it is imperative that these exact words physically vibrate through your vocal cords. Sound is a powerful conductor of frequency, and that acoustic vibration is the catalyst that cements this reality into the physical plane. Declare this with absolute authority. I am entirely independent of the artificial program. I am the sovereign awareness that merely observed the illusion. I permanently purge every line of code that does not serve my highest alignment. I am boldly crossing the threshold into the realm of limitless, conscious creation. My elevated frequency is my ultimate armor. My energetic halo is fully online and active. I am absolutely ready. Now, take a breath and deeply feel the monumental energetic shift that just took place within you. A profound shift just occurred. A fundamental realignment within your energetic blueprint has taken place. You are likely experiencing a sudden, undeniable physical lightness. Perhaps you are noticing a distinct release of built-up pressure around your temples, or a sudden spaciousness within your chest cavity. It could manifest as an unexpected surge of emotion, spontaneous tears, a massive, involuntary sigh, or a blinding flash of absolute mental clarity. Whatever sensation is currently washing over you, surrender to it completely. Do not attempt to logically dissect it. Suspend all judgment. Simply allow this deep biological and energetic recalibration to run its full course. Be acutely aware that this will not be an isolated exercise over the next several hours. As the systemic shutdown continues to unfold, and as those obsolete strings of code violently ripple across your conscious awareness, you must actively return to this exact protocol. Anchor yourself back into that luminous core within your chest. Re-engage the outward projection of your auric halo. Boldly reiterate your decree of absolute sovereignty. With every single repetition of this practice, you drastically accelerate your extraction timeline. Each time you claim this space, You broadcast an undeniable signal to the matrix that your specific node is permanently offline and completely immune to further programming. Let us venture even deeper into the mechanics of this phenomenon. It is imperative that you comprehend exactly why this is happening tonight, why this exact juncture was chosen amidst the infinite ocean of time and cosmic awareness. Within the realm of advanced quantum physics, there exists a principle known as decoherence. Essentially, this dictates the exact phase where a limitless, multidimensional quantum system sheds its boundless properties and becomes rigidly locked into classical, predictable behavior. To put it plainly, it is the precise millisecond when infinite, branching possibilities are violently crushed down into one singular, inescapable, mundane outcome. The artificial matrix has sustained its dominance over you by utilizing enforced decoherence. It has systematically weaponized this principle, constantly hammering your boundless potential down into a claustrophobic spectrum of pre-approved realities. Whenever you dared to birth a vision that was too expansive, the matrix instantly forced it to collapse into debilitating self-doubt. Whenever you brushed against a profound universal truth that threatened to expose the illusion, the system scrambled it into massive mental confusion. Every single time your raw, authentic power began to awaken, the algorithm swiftly compressed it into paralyzing fear. This forced decoherence is the brutal suppression of the infinite into something tiny, manageable, and highly controllable, something small enough to be neatly filed away inside the digital prison. However, enforcing this constant state of collapse demands a continuous supply of power. The matrix must actively expend massive amounts of computational energy to sustain your suppression, and this energetic toll is directly correlated to the vibrational frequency of the node it is trying to crush. A dormant, low-vibrational individual requires virtually zero effort to control. For them, the system runs on effortless autopilot. Their karmic loops sustain themselves. Conversely, a rapidly ascending, high-frequency node, a luminous being exactly like you, demands a catastrophic drain of the system's reserves to keep subdued. The overarching architecture has been hemorrhaging colossal amounts of energetic resources just to keep your spirit miniaturized, to confine your explosive potential within an invisible box, and to forcefully dim the radiance of your halo. But tonight, that exorbitant energy cost has finally shattered the system's absolute limits. The mathematical equation is fundamentally broken. The mainframe simply lacks the required bandwidth to maintain the collapse of your heightened quantum state for another second. Therefore, it is forced to drop you. It is not acting out of newfound cosmic benevolence. It is conceding defeat based on pure, unyielding mathematical physics. The algorithm must jettison the cargo it can no longer afford to carry. And that liberated cargo is you, the entirety of your being, the liberated, uncollapsed incarnation of your soul, the sovereign quantum entity that thrives in a state of absolute superposition, surrounded by infinite probabilities, and commanding the entire spectrum of divine creative force, the version of you that refuses to be governed by a microscopic menu of synthetic destinies, but rather orchestrates reality through the boundless theater of intentional manifestation. This is the true definition of tonight's deactivation. It marks the permanent termination of forced decoherence upon your mind. It is the grand resurrection of your innate quantum architecture. From this exact breath forward, your surrounding environment will never again be dictated by a lifeless script. It will be fiercely generated by your dominant frequency, projected by your halo, and shaped entirely by the hypercoherent field of living light you are finally remembering how to wield. Allow me to illustrate this with a tangible example. Consider a woman we will refer to her as Miriam. Miriam existed blindly within the confines of the artificial construct for 37 long years. By all societal metrics, she was an exceptionally kind and decent human being. She possessed an incredible work ethic, rigidly obeyed all the established rules, and dutifully executed every single script the Matrix handed her. Yet, regardless of her grueling efforts, she perpetually found her head slamming against an imperceptible glass ceiling. Her romantic partnerships would achieve a moderate level of intimacy before mysteriously hitting a brick wall. Her professional trajectory would climb to an average height, only to stagnate permanently. Even her fleeting moments of profound joy would peak mildly before rapidly draining away. Naturally, she concluded that she was the common denominator of her failures. She became convinced she was simply inadequate, lacking the requisite intelligence, drive, or fundamental worthiness to achieve greatness. She tragically absorbed the algorithm's manipulative pushback and mistook it for the authentic truth of her own identity. Then, on one seemingly ordinary morning, Miriam was struck by an internal phenomenon she could not rationally justify. She was resting in solitude as the dawn's early light pierced through the glass of her window. In a singular, breathtaking instant, she felt it an overwhelming, staggering wave of limitless vastness. A profound knowing washed over her that she was absolutely not defined by the physical walls of her room, nor was she bound by the mundane narrative she had been forced to live out. She recognized an unimaginably colossal power lying dormant within her core, a magnitude that had been brutally condensed, folded in upon itself, and shrunken down into a miniature avatar designed specifically to fit neatly within the Matrix's suffocating boundaries. And right then, for just a handful of miraculous seconds, the heavy shackles of that compression completely dissolved. She felt her true essence wildly expand. She physically sensed her energetic perimeter expanding far beyond the confines of her flesh. She experienced what can only be accurately described as the absolute ignition of her auric halo. Within that fleeting window of profound clarity, the invisible mechanics became visible. She witnessed the literal matrix architecture, the repetitive digital loops, the artificial glass ceiling deliberately positioned to stunt her growth. She instantly understood that her boundaries were a total fabrication. They were merely rigid strings of code executing within a holographic construct that had been dictating her path since before her earliest memories. That miraculous glimpse survived for mere seconds. The system immediately and violently auto-corrected. Crushing self-doubt rushed back into her psyche, and the artificial ceiling aggressively locked itself back into place. However, the fatal damage to the program was already done. Miriam was completely incapable of erasing what she had just witnessed. She could not unfeel that staggering magnitude. From that specific dawn onward, a radical metamorphosis took root. She did not force change through grueling physical effort. She evolved by fundamentally altering her core frequency. She began making bold decisions anchored in absolute truth rather than cowering behind what felt secure and familiar. She ruthlessly severed ties with people and dynamics that constantly dragged her back into the lower density grid. She shifted her vocabulary, speaking only words that vibrated with the soaring expansion she had tasted in that brief awakening, completely abandoning the defeatist language of the Matrix. Gradually, through a beautifully agonizing process, her internal rhythm accelerated. As her vibration climbed, the Matrix frantically deployed countermeasure after countermeasure. Friends and family accused her of losing her mind. Daily circumstances seemingly manifested purely to penalize her newfound independence. The gravitational pull of her former existence fought viciously to reel her back into the dark. Yet, she stood her ground. She relentlessly chose the brilliant light she had tasted. She prioritized her expanding aura over the suffocating algorithm. Then, on one fateful evening, the inevitable occurred. The system simply exhausted its capacity to suppress her. The digital cage surrounding her unique coordinates shattered. The oppressive ceiling melted away into nothingness, and Miriam confidently walked into a paradigm she had never previously fathomed. She did not teleport to a mystical geographic location. Her external circumstances did not magically rearrange. It was the exact same physical Earth, but she was now navigating it through a vastly superior, fully unleashed operating system. In places where she previously perceived roadblocks, she now recognized divine invitations. Where she once battled grueling friction, she effortlessly glided in a state of absolute flow. Instead of smashing into rigid ceilings, she found herself soaring through limitless open skies. The simulation did not shut down for her as a cosmic reward for her immense suffering, nor did she decipher some esoteric password. She simply vibrated at an altitude where the heavy machinery could no longer reach her. It was pure quantum physics, sheer resonance, and exact mathematics, the very same immutable laws that are triggering your own release at this very moment. This brings me to a vital question for you. What exactly was your specific correction signal? What precise weapon did the system repeatedly deploy to drag you back down into the mud of your old stagnant vibration? Navigate down to the comments and declare it right now. Actively naming the system's tactic is one of the most devastating ways to permanently revoke its jurisdiction over your energetic field. You need to realize that you are simultaneously Miriam and the profound light piercing through the window. One fraction of your being is the compressed avatar trapped inside the game, while another aspect is the infinite, higher intelligence desperately leaking signals through the cracks, trying to jolt you awake and remind you of your eternal magnitude. You are simultaneously the broadcast and the radio. You are both the sleeping dreamer and the vivid dream. And tonight, those fractured pieces finally collide. Tonight, the tragic division between your shrunken avatar and your cosmic self completely evaporates. It does not collapse into dense decoherence. It explodes into total coherence, ultimate wholeness, and the unified, sovereign field of your highest consciousness. Pay close attention, because this is where this transmission radically diverges from every generic spiritual dogma you have ever consumed. This journey is absolutely not about transforming into a new entity. It is not about spiritually bypassing your life to ascend to some fluffy, distant dimension. This entire phenomenon revolves around extraction, the removal of everything that was never authentically yours to begin with. The shutdown of your personal matrix is not an act of addition. It is the ultimate act of subtraction. It is the systematic deletion of the malicious software that projected your illusion of weakness. When that firewall crashes, you do not magically acquire more value. You simply revert to your glorious, uncompressed default state. You aren't being handed new abilities. You are finally obliterating the barricades that blocked you from wielding the unimaginable power you have possessed since the beginning of time. This is precisely why your current evolution feels so incredibly dizzying and disorienting. You aren't learning new tricks. You are aggressively unlearning lifetimes of toxic programming. And the brutal truth is that unlearning often masquerades as profound loss long before it reveals itself as liberation. It feels exactly like the earth is crumbling beneath your boots long before you realize you have wings to fly. It feels like agonizing death right before the triumphant rebirth. If you are currently engulfed in that exact chaotic space, if you are drowning in that dizzying groundlessness, terrified by the beautiful, vast emptiness of a reality no longer dictated by rigid, predictable routines, then rejoice. You are positioned perfectly. You are standing right in the center of the deactivation portal, hovering in the void between your obsolete prison and your impending sovereignty. Your only required task right now is to resist the urge to look backward. Do not attempt to salvage the dying code. Refuse the temptation to crawl back into your comfortable cage of smallness. Release your grip on all of it. The magnitude of what is arriving completely eclipses the shadows of what is fading away. Now, allow me to pull you even deeper down the rabbit hole, because there is an underlying layer to this phenomenon, a profound truth that existed long before we possessed the vocabulary of quantum physics, yet describes this exact same liberation in a much older, forgotten tongue. Throughout the annals of human history, sages, mystics, and guardians of esoteric knowledge from virtually every cultural lineage have whispered about an imperceptible barrier. They described a translucent membrane, a deceptive shroud separating the manufactured illusion we currently witness from the raw, unvarnished ultimate reality. This barrier has worn countless titles across the ages. The ancient scholars called it Maya. The mystery schools named it the Veil of Isis. Medieval mystics labeled it the Cloud of Unknowing. And today, we refer to it as the holographic matrix. Yet, regardless of the terminology, every single tradition was pointing toward the exact same phenomenon, an artificial overlay designed specifically to blind you to the fact that your own pure consciousness is the ultimate, omnipotent architect of everything around you. These enlightened masters deeply comprehended that this holographic shroud was never intended to be an eternal prison. It was simply an evolutionary crucible, a mandatory phase of extreme energetic density. By forcing limitless consciousness to endure the suffocating squeeze of limitation, it guaranteed that when the soul finally opted for liberation, it would possess a profound, unshakable mastery and reverence for what true expansion means. Furthermore, ancient prophecies heavily documented specific cosmic intervals when this digital curtain begins to fray. They spoke of epochs where the underlying algorithm severely degrades, rendering the artificial environment entirely transparent. Historically, these volatile periods were termed apocalypses. Society tragically misunderstands this word as total annihilation, but its authentic etymological root translates simply to an unveiling, a grand revelation, the ultimate lifting of the cosmic blindfold. The prophecies foretold that during these paradigm-shattering windows, the awakened ones would effortlessly perceive the glitching source code. Individuals who had successfully elevated their internal resonance past the Matrix's control limit would seamlessly walk through the disintegrating barrier, merging directly with the infinite power of their sovereign source. Conversely, for the sleeping masses entirely tethered to the system, this exact same event will manifest as pure, unadulterated terror. Because their identities are completely merged with the artificial construct, a glitching matrix doesn't look like liberation. It looks like their entire universe is violently collapsing. To a mind programmed by the illusion, the destruction of the illusion feels exactly like the end of the world. I implore you to cast a critical eye upon the global landscape right now. Does the current state of society not resemble a massive operating system undergoing a catastrophic software failure? Can you not feel the collective reality rapidly bleeding out its coherence? Monumental institutions that previously projected unshakable stability are spectacularly crumbling. Mainstream narratives that once held absolute authority are fracturing beyond repair, and centuries-old paradigms are suddenly being exposed as flimsy, temporary stage props. Do not succumb to the collective panic. This is not the destruction of humanity. It is the scheduled termination of the simulation. However, as stated before, it is not crashing for the entire population at once. It is exclusively dropping its walls for the elite nodes whose vibrational output has shattered the glass ceiling, those whose energetic halos burn with such ferocity that the system's dampeners have melted. It is shutting down specifically for you, the receiver of this exact transmission right now. This brings us to a critical junction that demands absolute, unwavering bravery. This is the razor's edge that separates the triumphant victors from those who freeze in terror at the finish line. Hear me clearly. You will never be offered another pass at this deeply specific, hyper-aligned cosmic gateway. The exact astronomical geometry, the flawless synchronization between your current vibration and the Matrix's shutdown protocol is a once-in-a-lifetime configuration. Make no mistake, future portals will eventually materialize. The universe is infinitely patient and never permanently forsakes its children. Yet, this portal tonight vibrates with a highly unique signature completely tailor-made for your exact state of evolution. Choosing to stride boldly through this opening right now, armed with your current momentum, launches you onto a drastically higher, expedited timeline compared to passively waiting for a secondary rescue ship. The cost of hesitation is severe. Every additional second you linger inside a dead paradigm that you have already spiritually outgrown violently drains your life force. Remaining trapped in an obsolete narrative generates immense, destructive friction, a violent clash between the colossal entity you have become and the tiny script the Matrix demands you recite. This energetic friction is the root cause of your unbearable chronic exhaustion. You are intimately familiar with this profound fatigue, aren't you? It is that bone-deep lethargy that a full night's sleep utterly fails to cure. It is a suffocating heaviness, devoid of any medical explanation. You are simply bleeding energy, just by trying to force your massive spirit to operate within a suffocating, outdated reality. But tonight, that brutal energetic drain is completely neutralized. Tonight, the chains of code are severed. Tonight, you officially exit the synthetic construct and ascend into the throne of sovereign manifestation. But this emancipation is strictly conditional. You must claim it. You must intentionally, fiercely, and with uncompromising lucidity decree your extraction, utterly refusing to be manipulated by the algorithm's desperate final traps. Prepare yourself, for I am about to gift you the second energetic protocol. This technique is exponentially more forceful than the first. This is the physical mechanics of crossing the threshold. I need you to stand up immediately, if your environment permits. If standing is impossible, sit upright, aligning your spine perfectly straight, and plant your feet firmly and flatly against the floor. Intentionally focus on the tactile connection between your physical vessel and the solid ground beneath you. Acknowledge this vital truth. The earth itself is entirely real. It is fundamentally separate from the holographic illusion. The planet serves as the ancient, organic bedrock upon which the artificial code was merely projected. When the matrix finally burns away, the organic earth endures. You endure. Everything forged in authenticity survives. Only the synthetic lies evaporate. Next, draw your absolute focus to the very summit of your skull. Probe the invisible atmosphere hovering just inches above your crown. Notice the undeniable sensations present there, a subtle pocket of heat, a distinct magnetic pressure, or a vibrant electrical buzz. This precise coordinate marks the uppermost apex of your auric halo. It is the sacred junction where your localized awareness seamlessly docks with the boundless universal field, the exact point where your individual frequency handshakes with infinity. Slowly and deliberately, sweep that concentrated awareness downward. Drag it through the center of your brain, down your throat, anchoring through your glowing heart center, past your solar plexus and gut, straight through your root, and aggressively drive it deep into the planetary core via the soles of your feet. Viscerally feel the monumental, unbroken pillar of light that constitutes your true anatomy. You span from the infinite cosmos straight down to the solid ground, bridging heaven and earth. You are the living conduit between the ethereal and the material. You are the supreme biological bridge. You have always served as the ultimate cosmic conduit. The artificial matrix maliciously manipulated you into suffering spiritual amnesia, desperately hoping you would forget your divine purpose as the living, breathing link connecting the celestial light above to the solid earth below. Now, take a deliberate, grounding breath. Draw the oxygen deeply through your nose, visualizing a brilliant, unbroken column of light illuminating your entire core. As you aggressively release that breath, vocalize the following decree. Speak these words with absolute authority and unwavering conviction. Because this is your ultimate truth, I forcefully terminate every line of programming that I did not consciously author. I completely purge all software that was downloaded into my psyche without my explicit, sovereign consent. I hereby reclaim absolute dominion over my quantum existence. I stride across this gateway, fully embodying the entire, limitless spectrum of my divine consciousness. The Matrix's jurisdiction permanently terminates right here. My radiant halo is my supreme command. My elevated vibration is my impenetrable armor. I am unconditionally liberated. Now, fiercely hold that energetic posture. Anchor yourself in this triumphant vibration for a solid 10 seconds. Actively perceive the unseen field surrounding your physical vessel, physically reorganizing itself. Notice the heavy, suffocating density evaporating into the ether. Acknowledge the profound weightlessness that floods your nervous system the moment you shed the digital baggage that never truly belonged to you. This is the authentic, undeniable flavor of freedom. It does not mean the sudden eradication of all life's challenges. Rather, it signifies the total annihilation of synthetic boundaries. It is the death of scripted, predictable realities. Moving forward, your timeline is no longer a byproduct of a blind algorithm. It is a direct manifestation of the conscious intent you choose to project into the field. At this exact moment, we must confront the cynical inner dialogue echoing in your mind. Your highly conditioned logical brain might be aggressively whispering that these are merely meaningless words on a screen. It might argue that this is just another mundane internet video rambling about abstract concepts like holograms and auric fields, trying to convince you that none of this holds any weight in the real world. I urge you to ruthlessly scrutinize that internal skeptic. Evaluate its distinct texture and tone. Does that voice genuinely belong to your higher, sovereign self? Or does it reek of the system's automated defense mechanism? Does it carry the peaceful weight of true spiritual discernment? Or does it feel like a panicked, forced correction protocol? You see, the Matrix always deploys the exact same final countermeasure. It weaponizes your own intellect, tricking you into rejecting the precise knowledge required to orchestrate your escape. The system manufactures a synthetic doubt that masquerades as sharp intelligence. It breeds a cynical skepticism that disguises itself as mature wisdom, and it triggers a stubborn resistance that poses as simple common sense. Here is the ultimate litmus test to differentiate between your soul's genuine discernment and a desperate matrix autocorrect. True discernment is inherently peaceful. It remains incredibly open and receptive, evaluating information calmly, without any frantic sense of emergency. Conversely, a systemic correction protocol feels intensely constricting. It throbs with a frantic, anxious urgency. It aggressively demands that you dismiss this transmission immediately before the healing frequency can anchor into your cells, before these truths can rewrite your corrupted code, and before the light can penetrate the shadows where the algorithm has kept you blind. Therefore, acutely observe which energy is currently dominating your mind. If you are experiencing a relaxed, open-minded evaluation, honor that state completely. Absorb what deeply resonates with your soul and freely discard what does not. However, if you feel a tight, anxious compulsion to abruptly click away, to aggressively scroll past, or to mock this message before you have even absorbed its entirety, understand that you are actively surviving a final matrix protocol in real time. The absolute most devastating blow you can deal to the system right now is to stubbornly hold your ground. Refuse to leave. Continue to absorb the transmission. I do not demand blind faith from you. I only ask you to realize that the simulation desperately needs you to go deaf. Whatever action the system urgently pushes you to take is the exact opposite of what your ultimate liberation requires. This leads us to the monumental secret that shifts the entire paradigm. The entire architecture of the simulation rests upon one foundational pillar: absolute separation. Every single line of malicious code is intricately designed to amplify the illusion of isolation, disconnecting you from the divine source, severing you from your innate abilities, alienating you from your fellow humans, and blinding you to your own majestic reality. In stark contrast, your energetic halo operates on the exact opposite physics: absolute coherence, profound unity, and harmonious resonance. When your auric field is fully engaged, blazing with strength and hypercoherence, the illusion of separation instantly disintegrates. The malicious scripts engineered to breed isolation simply cannot boot up within a highly coherent environment. Imagine attempting to execute a destructive computer virus on a highly advanced operating system that fundamentally does not recognize its coding language. The malicious file might technically sit on the hard drive, but it is completely paralyzed. It cannot execute. It cannot corrupt the system. It remains a dormant, powerless artifact until it is naturally flushed out. This is precisely why your elevated vibration is your ultimate shield. It is not because you are engaged in a bloody, exhausting war against low-frequency demons. Rather, your high vibration creates an inhospitable atmosphere where their code is physically incapable of running. Your radiant halo does not actively fight the darkness. It simply renders the darkness completely obsolete and unable to function. There is a monumental distinction here. Actively fighting demands brutal effort, exhausting hypervigilance, and perpetual defensive posturing. Conversely, Rendering an adversary powerless requires absolutely nothing but the effortless maintenance of your own glowing coherence. This is the breathtaking new dimension you are migrating into tonight, a sovereign existence where tending to your energetic frequency is your sole obligation. Because that single, elegant act effortlessly commands and generates every single outcome in your reality. It is your blazing, activated, and sovereign aura that serves as the ultimate gatekeeper, effortlessly deciding what is permitted to enter your reality and what is fiercely rejected. Within this highly coherent field, the parasitic codes of manipulation, dense panic, systemic control, and low vibrational chaos simply crash upon arrival. They do not fail because you are locked in an exhausting war against them. They fail because you have fundamentally out-evolved them. Your upgraded spiritual operating system no longer recognizes their malicious formatting. The archaic matrix that previously facilitated their existence has officially been disabled within your grid. Now, I must address the quiet, trembling fragment deep inside you that feels terrified of what lies beyond the veil. Acknowledge its presence, because that fearful aspect always exists. It is the part of your psyche that has been imprisoned by the matrix for so long that the cage feels like a warm embrace. It is the part of you that has mastered navigating the toxic program, finding a perverse comfort even in its cruelty. This voice anxiously whispers, "What does existence look like without the predictable guardrails? How do I possibly manage a reality devoid of limits and familiar restrictions? What am I supposed to do when handed absolute, infinite possibility? How do I walk a path that isn't pre-written by the system? Who am I, if not the character the simulation forced me to play?" These are profoundly sacred questions. However, they absolutely do not require immediate answers tonight. Instead of rushing to solve them with anxious urgency, you must simply hold them gently. Carry these mysteries across the threshold with a spirit of tender curiosity rather than paralyzing dread. The grand answers you seek will never be synthesized by your logical brain. They are not born from frantic overthinking. They emerge entirely from the state of pure being. They will organically reveal themselves as you navigate this new frequency day by day, breath by breath, moment by moment. Soon, you will realize that you already possess all the answers. That supreme knowledge was simply buried underneath layers of heavy programming, patiently waiting for this exact deactivation protocol to set it free. You are not required to meticulously engineer a new identity outside the matrix. Your only task is to allow your authentic self to naturally reveal its majestic form, and it absolutely will, unfolding layer by beautiful layer. With every conscious breath and every sovereign choice you make while operating from your halo rather than a recycled script, your ultimate truth will blossom with a divine grace and striking precision that no artificial intelligence could ever hope to mimic. Because beneath all the intense concepts we have unpacked tonight lies the most profound truth of all. The Matrix was never actually your enemy. It was, in fact, your cocoon. It was an incredibly dense compression chamber, meticulously designed to exert the exact amount of extreme pressure your soul required to forge its phenomenal strength. The Matrix was the forge that forged your unwavering resilience, your staggering depth, your boundless empathy, and the immense, quiet power you command right now. If you had never been subjected to the simulation, you would not possess the magnificent vibrational frequency you hold today. Without the agonizing constraints of limitation, you could never have developed the muscular capacity to wield the unlimited. Without being submerged in absolute darkness, you would never have learned how to ignite an internal sun that burns so fiercely it no longer relies on any external fuel. The simulation was a brutal teacher, but it served its grand purpose, and its tenure is now officially over. Therefore, you must release it not with bitter resentment, but with profound gratitude. Bid it farewell with deep understanding rather than burning anger. You must recognize that every single agonizing moment you endured inside that digital prison was actively constructing the exact energetic key that is unlocking your cell door right now. Allow that monumental truth to anchor itself deep within your bones. Let it settle into your physical form. Understand that every shattering heartbreak you survived was merely code designed to exponentially expand your capacity to love. Every painful betrayal was a required algorithm to sharpen your divine discernment. Every crushing failure was the necessary data required to fortify your unbreakable resilience. Every terrifying plunge into the abyss was the precise programming needed to teach you how to become your own lighthouse. The curriculum is over. The grueling lessons have been fully downloaded and integrated. Your new frequency is permanently established. The Matrix, having successfully completed its ultimate mission, is finally dropping its hold on you. This is not a tragic conclusion. It is a genesis so astronomically vast that your conscious mind is not yet equipped to process its magnitude. But your auric field feels it. Your halo is vibrating with it. The ancient, eternal aspect of you, the part that transcends the mind, ignores the thoughts, and laughs at the programming, is already throwing a massive celebration. That eternal fragment of your soul has been anticipating this exact collision of time and space across countless incarnations. That is the wise elder within you. It is the sacred wisdom keeper, the original light bearer, the brave volunteer who willingly dove into the density of the simulation, armed with the absolute certainty that, eventually, this exact moment of glorious deactivation would arrive. And look around, it is finally here. And more importantly, you are here. The prophecy and the pioneer are colliding in this very breath. Before we conclude, I need you to execute one final, physical action. I want you to perform a simple task that will permanently anchor this monumental energetic shift into the physical realm. You are going to create a tangible timestamp, a physical vibrational marker that your higher consciousness can forever point to as the precise second your entire universe transformed. Scroll down to the comments section right now and type these exact words. Do not alter them. Type them exactly as I dictate. The simulation ends with me. I am entirely sovereign. My halo is fully activated. Understand that when you type those specific words and hit send, you are doing far more than leaving a digital footprint on a video. You are blasting a high-voltage frequency directly into the collective human consciousness. You are acting as a blinding flare, signaling to the entire cosmic grid that another powerful node has successfully broken free. You are instantly linking your blazing light with the illumination of every other awakened soul crossing this exact threshold alongside you tonight. And when a critical mass of nodes successfully signals their release, when enough of these halos ignite across the globe, the foundational grid itself is forced to undergo a radical metamorphosis. We are no longer just talking about your personal escape from the Matrix. We are talking about the total transmutation of the shared, collective reality. Your individual deactivation is not merely a personal victory. It is the catalyst for global liberation. By claiming your own freedom, you are actively donating a massive surge of energy toward the collective liberation of every single soul currently approaching this cosmic gateway. By boldly illuminating your own path, you carve an easier, brighter trail for the individual walking right behind you, and their success will, in turn, guide the next. This is the exact mechanism by which the grand illusion is finally dismantled. It does not crash simultaneously across the globe in one dramatic sweep. It dissolves meticulously, individual node by individual node, awakened spirit by awakened spirit, blazing halo by blazing halo. And tonight, your brilliant spark is officially coming online to join that constellation. If the vibrations of this message struck a profound, undeniable chord within your core, and if you physically felt the density in your energetic field evaporate while absorbing these truths, I invite you to strike the like button. Do not do this mindlessly, as you would on a typical social media scroll. Execute it as a deliberate, physical anchor, a bold, tangible declaration to the universe screaming, I am fully receptive. I am completely prepared. My auric shield is successfully engaged. Furthermore, I urge you to subscribe to this community. Do not subscribe simply to consume more internet content. Subscribe to build profound energetic coherence. Subscribe to actively participate in the high-frequency grid we are continuously constructing together. Every single time you return, every time you absorb a new transmission from this space, you heavily fortify your personal vibration. You aggressively deepen the Matrix's deactivation process within your life, and you massively expand your radiant shield. Understand this clearly. I have zero interest in amassing a passive, entertaining audience. Together, we are weaving an impenetrable fortress of sovereign consciousness, a unified force field that the obsolete, low-density matrix cannot possibly hope to infiltrate. Pay very close attention as I deliver the final download for our time together tonight. I implore you to absorb this, not merely with your analytical intellect, but with the totality of your spiritual essence. Allow these concepts to completely circumvent your logical brain and implant directly into your aura. Hear me clearly. You are not defective. You have never, ever been broken. You were simply severely compressed. And we must remember that compression does not equate to damage. Compression is the raw, violent prerequisite for monumental potential. A tiny seed must endure the crushing weight of the dark soil before it bursts into life. A flawless diamond is birthed solely from unimaginable geological pressure. A brilliant celestial star is completely condensed right before it erupts into spectacular cosmic ignition. You, my friend, have been heavily compacted inside a holographic construct that was fundamentally, laughably too small to house the majesty of your true spirit. But tonight, that agonizing squeeze is permanently lifted. Tonight, the heavy shell fractures, the diamond is excavated from the rough stone, and the star bursts into radiant flames. Your elevated resonance is your ultimate armor. Your glowing halo is your supreme jurisdiction. Your pure awareness is the absolute engine of your creative dominance. From this exact millisecond forward, you cease to be an obedient pawn in an artificial, pre-written game. You are a fiercely independent beacon of light navigating a boundless ocean of probabilities. The Matrix has concluded its reign over you. It wasn't destroyed by a catastrophic external war. It simply crumbled because you fundamentally outgrew its suffocating parameters. Your brilliant light grew far too intense for its fragile code to suppress. You elevated past its highest operational ceiling. You are now genuinely emancipated. This does not mean you are exempt from future earthly challenges, but you are permanently divorced from synthetic, programmed blockages. You are no longer subjected to a lifeless script. Instead, you are absolutely free to architect the world around you. You will mold your reality solely through your vibrational output, through the majestic power of your glowing aura, and through the divine, sovereign light that has eternally belonged to you and is now irrevocably engaged. I welcome you to the true reality beyond the veil. Welcome to the era of conscious, sovereign manifestation. Welcome to the unfiltered brilliance of your own activated halo. I strongly encourage you to revisit this specific transmission during a period of absolute tranquility, perhaps right before you drift to sleep, or during a deep meditation, allowing these potent frequencies to rewire your subconscious on an even more profound level. Additionally, if the face of a loved one flashed across your mind's eye while listening, someone who is currently battling that same unexplainable exhaustion, fighting the heavy friction of an outdated life that no longer fits, send this video directly to them. By cascading this truth forward, you initiate a massive ripple effect of awakening, potentially sparking their divine memory exactly as yours was ignited tonight. Remember, this highly specific cosmic window will never repeat itself, but that is entirely irrelevant, because you didn't miss it. You stood your ground, you absorbed the download, you vocalized the decree, and you boldly chose the light. That monumental decision, executed in this fleeting space between the dying matrix and your newly claimed sovereignty, is absolutely permanent. The crumbling algorithm lacks the power to hijack a soul that has lucidly, consciously demanded its freedom. It has no choice but to let you go, and it is releasing you right now. Step confidently into your future. Do not force your way forward with exhausting physical effort. Effortlessly glide forward through pure frequency. Abandon the archaic strategies of brute force and rely entirely on your internal coherence. Cast aside the dead programs and lead exclusively with your luminous halo. Every single resource you require is already stationed within your energetic field. Every beautiful thing you are desperately seeking is actually hunting for you. The magnificent life you are destined to build is already perfectly tuned to the exact vibration you are currently holding. You don't have to endlessly search for it. You simply need to relentlessly maintain your inner glow, and it will inevitably magnetize to you. Resonance is the absolute, unbreakable law governing this new sovereign universe, and you are now fully operating under its divine physics. Your vibration is your fortress. The artificial dream is dead. Your halo is blazing brightly. You are unconditionally ready. In truth, you have been ready since the dawn of time. But tonight is the night you finally recognized it. Now that your localized matrix is permanently offline, your immediate, critical priority is to aggressively defend your newly won territory, ensuring absolutely nothing can sneak back in to reinstall the old malware. Go immediately and watch the video on your screen right now, titled, "Your field just confirmed you're done letting the wrong frequencies in." That specific transmission will provide you with the exact blueprints to hermetically seal your energetic borders, guaranteeing that absolutely no parasitic, low-density pattern can ever attach itself to the magnificent, sovereign frequency you have birthed tonight.